I'm joined by Chantal Flores, an investigative journalist in Monterrey, Mexico. Thank you very much for your time. Now, you've done extensive research and writing on this particular issue. You've been covering femicides in Mexico since 2014. What has changed in the disappearances in terms of cases in Mexico? Have things shifted in Mexican society?
Yes, definitely. I think the main thing that has changed is that they are still happening, and now we're seeing a higher number of disappearances of girls and women. But, you know, we don't have really reliable data to understand the magnitude of this problem. But I think in general, society is becoming more aware of these cases, and obviously we have a strong feminist movement, as you just mentioned right now, and we also have a really strong movement of families of the disappeared who have been doing this work for years, trying to bring the public attention to the disappearances and the femicides that women face in Mexico.
From what I understand, homicides are down, but these femicides are up in terms of the numbers. What are the main driving factors behind this disparity, do you think?
Well, like I said, I wouldn't rely on official data. Feminist organizations have denounced for a while that many of the murders of women are not being investigated as femicides. Usually they are just investigated as homicides, as a way to cover up the stats. So I think that now, you know, we keep saying 10 women are killed every day, 7 women are disappeared every day in Mexico. But I think we gotta move beyond the numbers and understand what the families and the women are facing here. And there's a mix of factors. We gotta remember that there's been a war, the so-called war on drugs here in Mexico for a while. So we have state actors, we have criminal organizations, and other citizens, you know, playing with these violences against women. And we don't really have a government that is transparent with the numbers and with the situation.
Why isn't the government transparent with the situation, do you think?
Well, I guess that's something we are all wondering, but the climate of impunity that we have is pretty obvious. The government refuses to acknowledge that there is systemic violence against women, and the government keeps denying the cases of disappearances and femicide, saying that is, you know, they usually rely on this narrative where they criminalize and victimize the women for the violence that we face. So I think right now we're getting to a point where we don't know what is really happening, because we see some things in reality, but we hear other things coming from the federal government and the state governments.
The particular report that we just watched, the case study of the young woman who was killed, is from northern Mexico. I believe you're in northern Mexico as well. Is there a disparity around the locations in Mexico in terms of where much of these femicides take place?
Yes, that's another thing that we gotta start analyzing and understanding the dynamics of violence in each state, right? Because the violence in Mexico plays very different in each state. So Nuevo León, where Monterrey is located, is a state near Texas. It's very conservative, very wealthy, but there's also a criminal presence. Obviously, it's a route for drugs and human trafficking. And the violence has just been increasing in general. So it's important to understand the general context of disappearances that happen across Mexico. And we see how these violences keep affecting women in a different way. And obviously, the military forces are in charge of public security, and this put women in a more vulnerable situation. So right now we have this case that has attracted a lot of attention, but we also have Yolanda Martinez, who disappeared days before Devani. We also have 16-year-old Celeste, who is still missing. So we have all these other women who are not attracting all the media attention, but they are still missing, and the families are in charge of their own search because the government is not looking for them, and society doesn't really understand what's going on, why all these women are going missing.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about this growing women's movement in Mexico? Just recently, Mexico Supreme Court decriminalized abortion, so there seems to be some gains made. Are there any links, do you think, to the rise of deaths among women in relation to this movement?
Well, we got to understand that Mexico has had a really strong feminist movement for a while. Yes, in the past years, we have seen them more active on the streets, especially in Mexico City, and now finally the attention is coming beyond Mexico City, where there has been a strong feminist movement working on the ground. And, you know, we see these gains, for instance, in the battle for reproductive justice. And I think that's some hope and strength for the rest of the battles, right? The essence or the core of the feminist movement in Mexico is to fight against all forms of violence. And I think that what has been achieved in reproductive justice so far can also give us some hope and resistance in fighting against gender violence. But we also gotta be realistic and understand that Mexico is, well, there's a very macho culture in here, right? So we also have this battle against cultural practices that are really hard to eradicate.